Guys, this is Wenzes from Below the Radar Above the System, and today I want to talk to you about the things we give value to, the areas of our lives that we make responsible for giving us happiness, for giving us recognition and self-worth. Because as we've talked before and as you've seen everywhere, if you've been familiar with this topic, part of being human is also being part of a group, having a connection with other people, having a connection with the society we live in, and also to be of value for that. So that's why you see like people who are pretty much feeling like a burden to society if they're sick or old or whatever it is, that they sometimes really lose hope in life if they don't have an outlet to really contribute, to be of service and so on. And I'm not talking about being of service of going out and saving children and saving animals and so on, because this is very straightforward. You can see those people are really being actively of service and doing something. But everything we do in order to bring some kind of value and to get the feedback that we're being worthy and that we're contributing and making life better and so on. And you can see it for everything. You can see it with, if you have like those celebrities that let's say a Kim Kardashian kind of celebrity who does all those things that get people captured and so on. There's a value she brings in her way. There's this value of, I'm bringing entertainment. I'm showing people how perfect one can be, and that makes people to strive for more, or they kind of like take the pressure out of their life to be something because they can project it onto her. And that's also the thing with people who control others. Sometimes people get drawn to politicians or anybody who are controlling or who are, kind of leading the group in a way, even if it was negative, because that way they can give up the control they normally would have to have over their life, which is difficult, which is not the easiest thing to do, and you take a lot of responsibility, and in a lot of ways you also go against society. So let's say that person who really controls others or so on, he's bringing value to those people who give that person the control, and this is not something that is generally bad. We all need leadership. I appreciate and would be very happy if there are people out there who kind of guide me. Everyone should be looking for a mentor, and I'm reading a lot. There are people I listen to, people I can learn from that lead me and that kind of show me the way. So there's not something like you could say you can be completely independent and not go for any of those things. I'm just saying those things about bringing value can be in so many different areas. And the next one after this, I'm going to be talking about, a lot more from the INFJ perspective, how we kind of bring value very often through neglecting our own needs. But in this video, I just want to give you an overview how this is happening throughout everybody. And when I look back at my life, I realized how many decisions or way of applying that I saw in other people to get value I couldn't understand. And not only could I not understand, I never thought that I could switch the areas that are bringing me value, bringing value to my life or what I'm giving. But what I'm saying is, normally, if we are part of a society and we don't go against the grain, I think you call it grain, so pretty much we conduct ourselves how society is supposed to conduct. That means we follow pop culture, or we watch mainstream media and so on. In a lot of ways, the more you stay to this and the more value you give social values, the more importance you give to social values, the less you're going against the grain, the less you're offending other people. Because I don't know if you've experienced, but I definitely experienced that I was very often kind of pushed aside, or I always had the feeling that if I would say something that doesn't go with the social values, people would look at me different or wouldn't like me and so on. And for the longest time, I kind of really stayed in my lane. And you can see it in little things, as in, for example, at work, I have a lot of people who are standing or are faced with a lot of pressure. Pressure that society is giving them, coworkers or so on. Just the feeling of I have to keep up, I have to work as much as the others, I have to work more, that there shouldn't be kind of like left out or going against everything they believe in. And once you really do that switch, that you say, well, I am going against the grain, I am gonna do my own thing and do everything how I want it, you can kind of decide what you're gonna go with and what you're not gonna go with, because this is all what it is about. There's a reason our society is the way it is, and it's not that everything's bad in here. There's good things about having a social conduct, as in, treat everybody with respect, let everybody have their voice, and that includes me as well as you, and so on. These are like social values which can be accepted, but there's a difference between having a conscious choice what you're gonna go with and what you're gonna believe in, or just like going with the grain. I'm sorry if that's the wrong word. If the expression, just write it below. But what I'm saying is this: giving those areas of our life a specific meaning and a specific how does it called, just put it on a pedestal or making that the most important part, is such a huge factor that plays within how happy we are with our lives. And I mean, you can see it with let's say a professional athlete. A professional athlete, you see them very often, they get really upset if they lose a game, or they get really happy when they win one, they cry, and so on. Like, there's a lot of emotion involved in this. And one of those reasons is because throughout their life, they experience that in that area, they can get the most, appreciation. They're seen as something good, they can bring value, they like winning because this is something where they're good at. So more often than not, this is an area where they're gonna excel at some point and get positive feedback. And so it happens very often when, let's say, a pro athlete has an accident and he can never play again, that they kind of like lose the whole perception of what are they in this life anymore. They were that basketball player who was admired for bringing joy and for winning and so on, and now you don't have that anymore. Or you see with people who then retire, and you ask, and I've seen it in a lot of cases where I just kind of like looked into it, how people really sometimes go through horrible life-changing phases where they have to face a lot of pain, because now there is no area like this left where they can get this appreciation from. And there is some consciousness in choosing, okay, I'm gonna go that route, as in I'm gonna be a ball player in that example, and knowing that you're gonna get some value through that. But there are also a lot of situations where we give certain areas in our life more importance, that are really self-destructive and that are not consciously chosen. For example, if you have let's say you have a girl who's very body conscious and wants to look like a model, and all the time she just keeps looking at magazine and sees how much thinner those airbrushed models are, and wants to be like them, and realize that she's not like that, and she gives this thing so much value that every time she thinks about it, her own self-worth goes down. And there are two reasons for that. Number one, she's giving that area a big importance. And the second one is that wherever your attention goes, wherever your attention goes, or what you think about too much, you know what I'm trying to say. Wherever you concentrate on, and when you keep repeating, that's where your attention's gonna go. That's where your mind's gonna go. So if you keep repeating this cycle, and if you're not being conscious, you're gonna think about all those things all the time. And what is actually the right thing to do is understand, okay, my looks shouldn't be that important. I am not in the fashion industry, and I'm not trying to be a model. Let's not forget how many models actually do have suicidal thoughts and have this huge pressure to have this perfect body and so on. But there's a choice how much value you give that thing. There's a choice if you're gonna compare yourself to others, and in what areas you're gonna compare yourself. You can give a lot of your attention to having a fit body. You can give a lot of attention to being very intellectually advanced, having like a lot of papers published and so on. But every time you do that, there can be positive and negative things throughout that whole thing. Like, I'm not here to judge what is better or worse. I'm not gonna sit here and say a Kim Kardashian kind of behavior is worse than being a Nobel Prize winner in I don't know what in quantum physics. I personally, since I'm from a very scientific family, and my aunt is a physicist, and do you call it physicist, like atoms and stuff she's all into this. My mom comes from a math background and stuff, so these things are very interesting to me, and of course I'm just gonna be drawn towards that. But there's no, those people are really able to bring that value to society. They're really able to bring a value that is advancing people, and let's say some kind of experience that help us to get better medical equipment or whatever it is. But then you have somebody who's getting like, so many people admire them for who they are, and they're also bringing value. Of course, maybe it's not on such a high level, but on the other hand, those physicians, I think physician means doctor, doesn't it? I just mean somebody who does physics. My English is today a little rusty, but those are like a couple of people, or a lot of people are not really understanding what is happening there, and they do it for the benefit of what they're achieving. They love the topic. But on the other hand, somebody who's that famous, they get a lot of people to kind of like have, oh, there's something exciting in my life when I look at their page or something. So these things all exist, and I think we all have to make those choices by our own, without having judgment of how others choose to bring value to our lives. But the interesting part in this is that we have to decide what kind of areas we give most importance to. Because sometimes you give areas importance that are, first off, not your strength. You make things more important that just are a part of society, or it is what is expected of you, when in reality this is not your true self. I mean, if you look at all the studies and everything, we've gone like the last century and so on. You had the industrial age, before you had that agricultural age, and now we're going into this knowledge-based society, and about knowledge worker age. That's how it's officially called. So it's more about learning. It's more about using what what your intentions are, and we're more and more getting into an area where your own voice matters the most. We have so many opportunities to go against what society is telling us, and to kind of like really give those things attention and focus to, which in the long run, or at least in the middle long run, are going to bring us the most satisfaction, the most value that we can bring, and so on. So if somebody is really good at making people happy through having a positive outlook on life, being inspiring to others because of their positive nature, and everybody around you is all negative and stuff, and they don't give you a chance, then it's on you to like kind of go out of there, have the strength to go against what your current society wants from you, and to set boundaries, and to go somewhere and find people that are really benefiting from this part of you. And then through that, to get that feeling of I'm being of worth. Because every one of us has strengths. You can say somebody, okay, let's say we compare to mathematicians. Of course, you have that one that wins a Nobel Prize. You have the other one who teaches at college and so on. Nevertheless, both people may have, in this kind of specific thinking area, their strongest asset. And it's not for us to compare the one with the other, because there are certain things we're born with. There are certain things that we have experience throughout our life. There's, a basis you start from. You can't compare people with each other, but each person kind of becomes more happy when they progress. Progress equals happiness. The more you work on yourself, the more you develop your strengths and apply them and help people with them, the more the happier you're gonna be, the lighter your life will feel, the more alive you will feel. And I know that through experience, because one of my biggest strengths, I kind of just suppressed all the time because it was not what was good in my surrounding. I felt like if I'm having a voice and I speak up, then everybody around me is going to, or not everybody, but people around me are gonna feel bad about themselves. And that gave me at first like a really bad feeling, because then I was not being of worth, as in I was not making other people's lives better. So my existence, my voice in the short term made other people unhappy. And that's just a fact. But I had to have the strength to go out there and say, okay, this is maybe gonna piss some people off, but in the long run, I will help people with this. I will get to a stage where I know that my voice will have an impact on people and will help them, because there are always people you can help, and there are always people who can help me. It's not just, there's so many things we can learn from others, and by having different voices around us, having people express their personal truth and giving those things the most value in their life, that are actually also helping their biggest strength and so on, and going against what everybody says, that is the best way to have security and passion in your life. This is, when you have relationships with people, maybe in an intimate relationship or friendship or whatever it is, those are the things you want most. On the one hand, you want to have a security that you can be open, that you can talk about who you are, be who you are. And at the same time, you want to experience, interesting thing, passion for life, having all those joy for all those things. And if everybody around us kind of develops more their own voice and gives those things more value, the easier it is for other people to do the same, and the less judgment there is, and the less of a social pressure there will be. And the way it looks, society is actually going in that direction. We can look at all those things that are not going well and so on, and it's also a question of what media and so on are focusing on showing. But in general, all those pictures or all those images about what we're supposed to be, they become less and less. Also this, what is a man supposed to be? What is a woman supposed to be? I've talked about this more than once, that I feel like both genders and, whatever else is really keeping you in a box, is going away and away. The picture of how a woman is supposed to be vanishes more and more, that she has to be the passive one and look out for the other one and so on. And this is also putting a lot of pressure on men, because they feel like I have to be the strong one for both of us. And on the other hand, men are very often in our society not allowed to be creative, to have feelings, to admit that they are afraid, and all those things. This whole sentence of, man up, and it just, it's very hurtful for both genders. And this is just an example. We have it in everything, but the trends show that this is getting more fluid, and you have much more women in either physically demanding or mental demanding jobs and leadership position. And you also see how much more men are getting into creative fields and are able to express and help people, and also in the social sphere, if it be maybe politicians or so on. It's not just, you're not just looking for that one guy that is saying, being all forceful and saying all those things, this is what you have to do. And you also see politicians who are very, about being kind and being generous and accepting and human. And this is also getting much more popular and much more accepted. And all those things are happening, but what we have to understand is, first off, understand that other people have different things they put value on. So if somebody is, for example, working a lot and getting a lot of recognition through that, understand where they're coming from. Don't be judgmental and say, well, you're just working, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your life. What are you gonna say when you know on your deathbed and now you're just gonna say, oh, I worked all the time and so on. Well, those people are getting some kind of benefit through that. There's some kind of satisfaction that goes on in them. On the one hand, as I said, they're making progress. On the other hand, they do see how they're being beneficial to clients, beneficial to the people around them. They see how this gives them a social value in a way because they're being accepted. And none of us is completely free in that. We're all kinds of slave to that, I might say, but it's just part of being human and part of being conditioned that we have social values and that there are some kind of hierarchies which go flatter and flatter through the time. But there is this thing, and I have learned that I've been, for example, very judgmental in comparison to what I'm now when I look at people like this, and I understand it and I allow it in myself as well. Like, this is something I didn't allow. I thought, well, this is not right. I shouldn't aim for having a better position at work, having, all those things. When in reality, this is actually something which does my soul good, and I am not, I'm not supposed to expect that much of myself that I completely vanish everything and just, be a complete monk and not care about any of those things. On the one hand, we have to be kind to ourselves, but understand people are coming from different value systems, and that we have to first off be aware of what our value system is, and then be aware that we can change it. We can change things that are not bringing us happiness. The next video is about INFJs and why we neglect our needs, which has a lot to do with this topic. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit more about what kind of switch I did in my life, and how I changed the things I give value to, and how that was something I didn't believe was possible. But now I just want you to understand that everybody has those things. You do have control over how much value you give something, and the more you think about something else, the more value you will give it. For example, I've told you before, I never cared about having color in my life, or having a lot of decoration and color and so on. And once I started doing that, it was a very very big struggle within me, but I kept doing it. I kept concentrating on it. I kept listening to uplifting music, and I kind of always had to push myself for months and months, day after day. And because you kind of need to change your mind, you really have to change your mind, your mindset. But once I do that, I now see how much benefit I get for that, and how happy that makes me, and how much this helps me to be part of a society and find my place in it and find my voice. And I was only able to do that because I was able to go against the short-term positive feedback that I would get, because I knew for me it was a thing of, okay, if I do this is gonna be a lot. I'm always expansive. It's very I'm very flamboyant. I have a lot of I kind of stick out, and I was scared to do that all the time, because I thought that would not give me, people would not like me. But they didn't like me at first. Now it's just the more and more I really do things that I feel comfortable with, that I'm not lying about, the more secure I am. And the more secure I am, the more I can work on my passions. And therefore you're less able to be scrutinized or being judged or whatever, or you don't really care, because you yourself know, well, I feel good at this. I know in those areas I'm getting the feedback that I want. I'm bringing the value through my strengths in the area that is where I'm good at, that is important to me, and that helps me in an overall society to feel more secure. Because when you're secure inside, you can be you can allow yourself to be vulnerable on the surface, and really allow win-win situations. You don't have to be always in control of everything. So this is, I think, a very interesting topic. I'm thinking about like really going into this more and more, and also about, you know, the area of finding our voice. So I'm really excited about the next weeks, and yeah, talk to you in the next video. Bye.